Hello, fellow Americans. You are on the YouTube channel Common Constitutionalism, and I am Mitch. I talk about issues in our government, the erosion of our culture, the minimizing of our way of life, and the disregard for our Constitution. Keep your conservative voices active. Subscribe to this channel and listen as I talk about issues we are facing in our country and government. Visit my website, commonconstitutionalism.com. Enjoy reading my conservative blogs, and if you like them, maybe throw in a donation. While on commonconstitutionalism.com, go ahead and shop at the Sage Novelty Shop, where you will find shirts which feature our very own unique conservative political memes and captions. Display your conservative beliefs with pride. These items send a clear message without saying a word, or if you prefer, you can use them as a conversation starter. Come join my Facebook group, Common Constitutionalism, for discussions of topics, sharing of ideas, and interacting with others just like yourself who are proud to be Americans. This is going to be a two-part video, so make sure that you upon finishing part one here, you go to part two and watch it as well. And the issue that we're going to be discussing here is, do Trump's policies discriminate really? All we hear day after day from liberals, Democrat politicians, and mainstream media is that President Trump is a racist, xenophobic. He is going to get us into World War III. He is a national security threat because of his involvement with Russia and China. And he has destroyed our economy. Basically, the left never stops saying he doesn't know how to be president. But no president has been harder on Russia and China than Trump. Trump put together the strongest economy in history. Trump is getting us out of the Middle East, and he is closing military bases around the world. Trump has done more to help minorities than any other president. Let's not forget, even after the coronavirus, the stock market has rebounded to almost its record high. Also, the Russian collusion thing, well, it's being proved that was the Democrats and Hillary Clinton's made up hoax, codenamed Crossfire Hurricane. Let's look at employment. Over 10 million U.S. manufacturing jobs have been lost since the 1980s. Manufacturing plummeted after 1998. That is directly attributed to President Clinton in giving China permanent normal trade relations, which gave China a membership to the World Trade Organization. Then during Obama's two terms, he lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Since Trump took office, January 2017, he has added over 480,000 manufacturing jobs in the United States. President Trump's historic economy added over 7.5 million jobs and was growing daily. Then the coronavirus hit. However, the stock market and economy is returning by leaps. The return is shattering all expert expectations. Trump is the person, if reelected, that will get the economy back to pre-COVID levels. Certainly not Biden and his proposed outrageous spending budgets. To put it in perspective, Trump's historic economy added 7.5 million jobs in just 3 years. Now compare that to the 10 years prior to Trump. From 2007, ending the Bush administration, to early 2017, ending the Obama administration, they only added 2.45 million jobs total in 10 years. Under President Trump, minorities were his big gainers. In the historic Trump economy, unemployment rates, wages, and poverty set minority labor records. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, President Trump's policies rose women to historic highs in major labor categories. On September 29, 2020, the Federal Reserve published its survey of consumer finances, as it does every 3 years. The report provides a snapshot of American household debt, income, and wealth across all demographic groups. So the wealth gap was found to have shrunk from 2016 to 2019. In those 3 years before the pandemic, the biggest gains were the lower income earners. President Trump created an economy of historic levels, with the biggest achievements going to minorities and women. I do not think this would be the result of a racist, chauvinistic man would work towards. I guarantee you will not hear any of this from fear-mongering Democrats and mainstream media. Now on to education. Expanding education opportunity. President Trump has made it a priority of his administration to promote high-quality educational opportunities for all students, regardless of race or income status. President Trump and his administration have taken action to restore local control over education and stop federal overreach that limits teachers and students. President Trump signed legislation to reauthorize the DC Opportunity Scholarship Program. Doing so reversed an Obama-era policy that denied scholarship to low-income students. Trump is the first president ever to secure permanent funding for historically black colleges and minority universities. Historically, funding for HBCUs, as they're called, was never certain, causing HBCU budgets to be decided on a shoestring. Trump was the first sitting president to speak at the HBCU Conference Week, where he announced he would end discriminatory restrictions that prevent faith-based HBCUs from accessing federal support. Devastation caused by Hurricane Katrina was covered with massive federal funds for businesses, schools, infrastructure, transportation, and the like. However, HBCUs did not qualify because they are mostly faith-based institutions. Instead, HBCUs were forced to take out huge multi-million-dollar loans to rebuild and pay back. The HBCUs fought with the Obama-Biden administration for 8 years to have the massive $322 million debt incurred from Hurricane Katrina have it absolved. But nothing happened until the Trump administration made it happen in his first year in office. President Trump has given more money to HBCUs than any other president in history for both undergraduate and graduate studies. Despite President Obama being the first black president, Obama's relationships with the HBCUs was one of a love-hate type relationship. President Trump's interaction and accomplishments with HBCUs resulted in many firsts in history. Does any of this sound something a racial person would do? The Democrats are so obvious in their hate and biased propaganda of lies and fabricated rhetoric. Now let's speak about crime. Trump's landmark First Step Act legislation gave countless current and former prisoners a second chance at life and a new opportunity to contribute to their communities, their states, and their nation. President Trump's First Step Act and his second chance at the American Dream Act eliminated parts of the 1994 crime bill that Joe Biden helped pass and sponsored. A bill which had the 3 strikes life sentencing provision for more than 60 offenses, expanded judges' discretion for harsher sentencing of nonviolent crimes, and much more. Most interesting is that in the 1994 crime bill Biden and the Democrats supported, it had over 100,000 cops, increased police funding, and built 125,000 new state prison cells. Now, 25 years later, the same Democrat Party is supporting anarchy, releasing prisoners onto the street of violent crime, passing no bail laws, basically a catch and a release program for offenders, demanding defunding the prison system, dismantling police departments, and defunding the police. The most unjust result of the 1994 crime bill is that it greatly, disproportionately incarcerated young black men into the prison system. Again, I say, what Trump is doing is not something a racist person would do. The fake bias rhetoric of the Democrats and mainstream media are tiring. I ask, which party really cares for minorities? Quick note on the border wall. President Trump is keeping his promise on the border wall. Construction is going well. 350 miles of border wall have been built so far to protect our southern border. The new wall is being constructed at a rate of 1.29 miles per day. Presently, with 240 new miles under construction and 157 new miles under the pre-construction process. So it's going gung-ho. Okay, Trump and COVID-19. The left is not willing to be honest. They are constantly ranting that Trump did not act fast enough dealing with the coronavirus and that he does not listen to the scientists. Yet when President Trump put travel restrictions on China just 10 days after the first case in the United States was confirmed, the liberal politicians and mainstream media called him racist, a fearmonger, and xenophobic. It was mid-March, 2.5 months later, before the Democrats slowly began to admit maybe people should be careful and listen to the science. However, to this day, they still claim Trump reacted too slowly. For clear facts on the timeline of when events happened with COVID-19, look at my article. Trump is a 5-star general leading the coronavirus COVID-19. It's on my website at commonconstitutionalism.com. It will show you the complete timeline of Trump and the Democrats handling the coronavirus. We will end part 1 right here. Be sure to jump on over to Do Trump's Policies Discriminate Really? Part 2.